Imagine boarding a plane on an ordinary afternoon. You notice a quiet, well-dressed man sitting alone. He orders a drink, lights a cigarette, and blends into the crowd so perfectly that nobody remembers anything unusual about him. Back in 1971, air travel was very different. Passengers could buy tickets with cash and board flights with little scrutiny. No metal detectors, no body scanners. For someone planning the impossible, it was the perfect opportunity. A few hours later, that same man would hijack an aircraft, collect a fortune in cash, parachute into a stormy night over endless wilderness, and disappear forever. No body, no parachute, no confirmed trace. More than 50 years later, nobody knows who he was or whether he survived. This is the mystery of D.B. Cooper, the man who may have committed the perfect crime. November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving. A man using the name Dan Cooper boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305 from Portland to Seattle. He appeared calm, polite, ordinary. He wore a dark business suit, loafers, and a black tie. Nothing about him seemed suspicious. Shortly after takeoff, he handed a folded note to flight attendant Florence Shaffer. At first, she ignored it. She assumed it was another passenger trying to flirt. Then Cooper leaned toward her and quietly said, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Inside his briefcase were red cylinders connected by wires. Whether it was real or not, nobody was willing to take that chance. In a matter of seconds, a routine flight became a hostage situation, and Cooper seemed completely unfazed. Most hijackers panic under pressure, but Cooper remained calm. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten passengers unnecessarily. He simply explained what he wanted: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. Authorities had little choice but to comply. As the plane circled above the city, the FBI scrambled to gather the ransom money. Airport workers prepared the parachutes. Every minute felt critical. When the aircraft finally landed, the passengers were released unharmed. The ransom money was delivered. So were the parachutes. Everything Cooper requested had arrived. Then he gave an order nobody expected. He instructed the crew to take off again. Destination: Mexico City. But the most dangerous part of his plan was still ahead. After refueling, the aircraft climbed back into the night sky. Heavy rains swept across the Pacific Northwest. Strong winds battered the plane. Below stretched endless forests, rivers, and mountains. A vast wilderness with almost no lights in sight. Cooper sat near the rear staircase. Beside him sat the ransom money and parachutes. The crew remained tense. Nobody knew what he planned to do next. Then, shortly after 8 p.m., a warning light appeared in the cockpit. The rear staircase had been activated. Cooper ordered everyone to stay away. Minutes later, the aircraft suddenly shifted. The pilots felt a noticeable change. Something had happened. Somewhere over the darkness below. D.B. Cooper opened the staircase, stepped into the storm, and jumped into freezing rain, into powerful winds, into complete darkness. Nobody saw him leave. Nobody saw him land. And nobody would ever hear from him again. The FBI launched one of the largest investigations in American history. Search teams combed forests, rivers, and mountains. Helicopters scanned remote areas where Cooper might have landed. Investigators interviewed hundreds of witnesses. Thousands of leads were examined. Yet nothing led directly to Cooper. No body was discovered. No parachute was recovered. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Then, nearly a decade later, a young boy named Brian Ingram made a shocking discovery. Buried along the banks of the Columbia River were bundles of decaying cash. The serial numbers matched Cooper's ransom money. It was the first major breakthrough in years. But instead of solving the mystery, it created even more questions. If part of the money had survived, What happened to the man who took it? Who was D.B. Cooper? A former military paratrooper? An experienced criminal? Or simply an ordinary man who got lucky? For decades, investigators searched for answers. Hundreds of suspects were examined. Thousands of theories emerged. Some experts believe Cooper died during the jump. The weather was brutal. The terrain was unforgiving. Survival seemed unlikely. Others disagree. They point to his knowledge of aircraft, his calm behavior, and the precision of his plan. They believe he survived and spent the rest of his life hiding in plain sight. In 2016, after 45 years of investigation, the FBI officially suspended active efforts on the case. The mystery remains unsolved. More than 50 years later, the truth is still missing. Did D.B. Cooper perish in the darkness? Or did he walk away from history's most daring hijacking? Nobody knows. And perhaps that's why the story refuses to die. Because sometimes, the most fascinating mysteries aren't the ones we solve. They're the ones that disappear without a trace.